जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुनतीरावनचारी। यमुनतीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुनतीरावनचारी। यमुनतीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text number 8. Graham Anitam Ahuya Prahradam Daitya Yajakaha Prashasya Shlakshnaya Vacha Samaprachanta Samabhi Grahamanitamahuya Prahradam Daitya Yajakaha Prashasya Shlakshnaya Vacha Samaprachanta Samabhi Grahamanitamahuya Prahradam Daitya Yajakaha Prashasya Shlakshnaya Vacha Samaprachanta Samabhi Grahamanitamahuya Prahradam Daitya Yajakaha Prashasya Shlakshnaya Vacha Samaprachanta Samabhi Anybody else? On Zoom?
Yam anitam ahu Parinadam Raita Yajakaha Prasasya Slakshanaya Vacha Shama Prichanta Shamabhi
Griham, to the place of the teachers, Shanda and Amarka. Anitam, brought. Ahuya, calling. Prahradam, Prahlad. Daityajaka, the priests of the demon Hiranyakashipu. Prashasya, by pacifying. Shlakshanaya, with a very mild. Vacha, voice. Samaprachanta, they questioned. Samabhihi, by very agreeable words. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When Hiranyakashipu's servants brought the boy Prahlad back to the Gurukul, the place where the Brahmanas taught the boys, the priests of the demons Shanda and Amarka pacified him. With very mild voices and affectionate words, they inquired from him as follows. Purport. Shanda and Amarka were the priests of the demons. Shanda and Amarka, the priests of the demons, were very eager to know from Prahlad Maharaj who the Vaishnavas were that came to instruct him in Krishna consciousness. Their purpose was to discover the names of these Vaishnavas. In the beginning, they did not threaten the boy because when threatened, he might not identify the real culprits. Therefore, they very mildly and peacefully inquired as follows. I'm going to read a couple verses because the purports in the next few verses are just summary. And then I'll read up to text 11. Dear son Prahlad, all peace and good fortune unto you. Kindly do not speak lies, just reply with the truth. These boys you see are not like you, for they do not speak in a deviant way. How have you learned these instructions? How has your intelligence been spoiled in this way? Purport. Prahlad Maharaj was still a boy, and therefore his teachers thought that if they pacified the little boy, he would immediately speak the truth, revealing the secret of how the Vaishnavas came there to teach him lessons in devotional service. It was surprising, of course, that in the same school, the other boys of the Daityas were not polluted. Only Prahlad Maharaj was supposedly polluted by the instructions of the Vaishnavas. The main duty of the teachers was to inquire who those Vaishnavas were that came to teach Prahlad and spoil his intelligence. O best of your family, has this pollution of your intelligence been brought about by you or by the enemies? We are all your teachers and are very eager to hear about this. Please tell us the truth. Purport. Prahlad Maharaj's teachers were astonished that a small boy could speak such exalted Vaishnava philosophy. Therefore, they inquired about the Vaishnavas who stealthily taught it to him. In order that these Vaishnavas might be arrested and killed in the presence of Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu. Okay, text 11, last verse. Prahlad Maharaj replied, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose external energy has created the distinctions of my friend and my enemy, by diluting the intelligence of men. Indeed, I am now actually experiencing this, although I have previously heard of it from authoritative sources. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.18, Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shunichaiva shvapake cha pandita samadarshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcasts. Panditaha, those who are actually learned, the equipoised advanced devotees who have full knowledge of everything, do not see any living entity as an enemy or friend. Instead, with broader vision, they see that everyone is part of Krishna, as confirmed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jiber Sharuphoy Krishna Nityadas. Every living entity, being part of the Supreme Lord, is meant to serve the Lord, just as every part of the body is meant to serve the whole body. As servants of the Supreme Lord, all living entities are one, but a Vaishnava, because of his natural humility, addresses every other living entity as Prabhu. A Vaishnava sees other servants to be so advanced that he has much to learn from them. Thus he accepts all other devotees of the Lord as Prabhus, masters. Although everyone is a servant of the Lord, one Vaishnava servant, because of humility, sees another servant as his master. Understanding of the master begins from understanding of the spiritual master. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Sakshadaritvena samasta shastre ruktas tatha bhavyateva sadvi kintu praporyav priyaiva tasya vande guru shri charanaravindam. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari, Krishna. The spiritual master, the servant of God, is engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord, namely delivering all the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya, in which one thinks this person is my enemy and that one is my friend. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the friend of all living entities, and all living entities are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. Oneness is possible through this understanding, not through artificially thinking that every one of us is God or equal to God. The true understanding is that God is the Supreme Master and that all of us are servants of the Supreme Lord and are therefore on the same platform. This had already been taught to Prahlad Maharaj by his spiritual master Narada, but Prahlad was nonetheless surprised by how a bewildered soul thinks one person his enemy and another his friend. As long as one adheres to the philosophy of duality, thinking one person a friend and another an enemy, he should be understood to be in the clutches of Maya. The Mayavadi philosopher who thinks that all living entities are God and are therefore one is also mistaken. No one is equal to God. The servant cannot be equal to the master. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, the master is one, and the servants are also one. But the distinction between the master and servant must continue even in the liberated stage. In the conditioned stage, we think that some living beings are our friends, whereas others are enemies, and thus we are in duality. In the liberated stage, however, the conception is that God is the master, and that all living entities, being servants of God, are one. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Shanda and Amarka, Prahlad Maharaj has just spoken this seminal verse, I guess you could say. Tat sadhu manya survarya hinam sadasumudvikna dhyama sadgrahad hitvatma patam grahamanda kupam vanam gato yadharamashayeta. Which he's replying to his father, or his father's question about the best thing that he's learned so far. So now, Shanda and Amarka, the priests of Hiranyakashipu, are now looking for the Vaishnava or Vaishnavas who instructed Prahlad Maharaj in this way. Like Prabhupada mentions in one of these purports, he says that it's very surprising that although Prahlad was in a gurukul with many other boys, none of the other boys had their intelligence, quote-unquote, spoiled in the same way that Prahlad did. But as we know, Shanda and Amarka won't find the culprit because the culprit isn't anywhere in the school. It's not anywhere around now. The culprit was Narada Muni, who instructed Prahlad Maharaj before he was even born. So they won't find him. And although they might, they'll inquire, or they have been inquiring from Prahlad Maharaj as to who he is. And in reply to their inquiries, Prahlad Maharaj speaks this very interesting verse. He says, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose external energy has created the distinctions of my friend and my enemy by diluting the intelligence of men. Indeed, I am now actually experiencing this, although I have previously heard of it from authoritative sources." This last sentence of the verse I thought was interesting. He says, I am now actually experiencing this, although I've previously heard of it from authoritative sources. So, Prahlad Maharaj, he was instructed by Narada Muni when he was in the womb. And of course, in the womb, you don't have much life experience yet, because you haven't really lived yet. Of course, you're alive, but you haven't really lived life yet. So Prahlad Maharaj, now he's a young boy, and as he's living and he's growing older, he's realizing these instructions of Prahlad Maharaj. He's holding them, of Narada Muni. So he's held these instructions in his heart, and now as he's going through life, he's realizing them through his experiences. So this is a similar experience. Anybody who practices Krishna consciousness begins on the theoretical platform. You hear and you hear and you hear the first item of devotional service, Shravanam. You hear all of these different instructions, all of these philosophical points, and then one goes through their life and they can actually see them. Krishna consciousness is a very practical philosophy in the sense that, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, pratyakshagavamam dharmyam, that Krishna consciousness can be practically seen. It's not just a theoretical kind of philosophy. It's something that can actually be seen. The example is that just like when somebody comes to Krishna consciousness, or before somebody comes to Krishna consciousness, they may have so many sinful habits, like meat eating and, these 4 regulative principles, meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. So before one comes to Krishna consciousness, one is, many people or many devotees have the experience that they were, weren't following, or they were breaking all of them. Every single regulative principle, sometimes, in like one day, you could break all the 4 regulative principles. It's quite common. But after one comes to Krishna consciousness, Vishayamani vartate niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. They're able to see that, or they're able to see these different things, these different activities that they were previously engaging in for what they are. One who comes to Krishna consciousness, they lose their taste for, I think the big one that they lose their taste for is meat eating. That's a pretty low one, or a pretty basic one that devotees lose taste for, meat eating. And then you go to the supermarket, or previously, you go to the supermarket and you see, the aisle, and you see, oh, this one looks, really juicy, or this one, whatever, all these different. It's on sale. Yeah, it's on sale, yeah, whatever it is. But then, after coming to Krishna consciousness, many devotees have the experience, I've had the experience, that you go to the supermarket and you see all these, and it's very gruesome, actually. It's dark. It's like, yeah, exactly. You don't just see it as like, oh, that's a food I don't eat, but you see it as it's a very dark kind of place. So, in this way, the effect of Krishna consciousness can be seen. And also just these like Prahlad Maharaj will speak in some time. Shravanam kirtanam vishnu smaranam padasevanam archanam mandanam dasyam sakyamatmani vedanam. All these different things they're practical things that we can do. These 9 processes of devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. They're practical in the sense that it's things we can do and things that actually have an effect. When we hear about Krishna or when we remember Krishna, it has an effect on our consciousness. Devotees also have the experience that, if they don't chant their rounds, if you have like a day where, you don't chant, you're so busy that you don't have the opportunity to chant your rounds until, the evening or something like that. You feel it. You feel, oh man, I got to chant my rounds. I'm not feeling so well. Or I'm feeling kind of contaminated. So in this way, Krishna consciousness has a very practical, transformative effect. And Prahlad Maharaj was transformed by the instructions of Narada Muni. Tadvagva sargo janataga viplavo. It's like Srila Prabhupada translates, Krishna consciousness creates a revolution in the hearts of in the impious hearts of a misdirected civilization. So all of us practically in this world are misdirected because we are going the other direction away from Krishna. Through, all these different things, sinful activities. So, by dint of Krishna consciousness, despite our Like Prahlad Maharaj, for instance, Prahlad Maharaj was born in a very demoniac womb, very demoniac family. He's, in the family line of Hiranyakashipu. It doesn't get much worse than that. Well, actually it can. But despite that so-called disqualification, Prahlad Maharaj was Bhaktaraj. He was the greatest of devotees. So by dint of his engagement, specifically his engagement in hearing, like Srila Prabhupada says, submissive oral reception, he was transformed. This verse, Dravida Prabhu likes to quote, Pibantiye Bhagavata Atmana Satam Katamratam Shravana Putesha Sambratam Punantite Vishaya Vidushatashrayam Vrajanti Tat Sharana Sororu Hantakam. That hearing topics of Krishna, it purifies our polluted aim of life. Actually, it says that, it says, Punantite Vishaya Vidushatash, Pibantiye Bhagavata Katamratam Shravana Putesha Sambratam. Sambratam means fill, like full, to the brim. And Shravana Putesha literally means your hearing holes. So it says you should fill your ear hole, drink, in your ear holes to the brim, the Katamrita, the nectar of Krishna Katha. So Prahlad Maharaj did this, and as a result he was transformed. And then it says, Vrajanti Tat Charana Suroru Hantakam. And then by this transformation, one comes closer and closer, makes progress along the path toward Krishna's lotus feet. So this is also brought out in this purport. We're all servants of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiver Swaruphoy Krishna Nityadas. We're all eternally servants of Krishna. And so one who comes closer to Krishna, comes closer to this constitutional position, naturally becomes very humble. Because that's who we are. We're very humble. It's not even just, you can't even say like, oh, we're very, that's who we are. It's not like a quality we have. We're naturally humble because we're in a lower position in relation to Krishna. That we have the abhiman, or we intentionally serve Krishna with humility. Also, Gopi Bhartu Padakamalyor Dasa Dasa Ono Dasaha. This is the natural sentiments of one who is close to Krishna, that he feels himself to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, etc., of Krishna. Again, it's not just a feeling, it's actually who we are. For instance, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or specifically Rupa Goswami, introduced, fleshed out and presented this Manjari Bhav. Manjari Bhav literally means you're servant of the servant. The gopis are servants of Krishna, or servants of Srimati Radharani, and then the Manjaris are servants of the gopis. So, from a practical perspective, we are very humble. We're in a very humble position. For most people, however, this word humble, well, I guess we have a somewhat different definition of the word humble. For most people, humble just means, okay, I'm very qualified, or I have a lot of money, but I don't brag about it, or I don't let people know. That's about as far as humility goes for most, materialistic kind of people. But we wouldn't say this is real humility. We would say this is kind of a maybe even a sad excuse for humility. Because for a materialistic person, humility is actually not possible. Real humility is actually not possible. Because humility depends on humility means the way you deal with others, the way you think about yourself. Which depends on your aim of life. So if one has the aim of life to get ahead of everybody, to be better than everybody, to get the most one can get for oneself and one's, family. Prabhupada said extended selfishness. So if that's your aim of life, then, and there's others also trying to do that. Others also trying to be the center, trying to get ahead, trying to be better. And there's others who are already better than you. Then what do? Those who are already better than you try to drag them down. Those who are competing with you to become better, you compete with them. You try to push them down, you try to push yourself up. And those who are lower than you try to exploit them so that you can kind of step on their head to get higher. So someone does all this, they drag people down and they exploit other people and they compete with others, and then they get a lot of money or they get some kind of qualification, and then they don't brag about it, and then we think, oh, it's a very humble person. But that's not real humility. Real humility is born when we have no material desires at all, when we have no stake in the game. Means we don't have, like Prahlad Maharaj, for instance. Prahlad Maharaj didn't have any, he wasn't interested in this political or economic gain, which he was being taught was the aim of life. It had nothing to do with him. So therefore he didn't like to hear about this my friend, my enemy thing. It just was irrelevant to him. And to him it seemed like a great burden, because it is a great burden. It's a great burden to think this person is my friend, this person is my enemy, or this person is better, this person is worse. Constantly comparing oneself to others, thinking that I'm a complete failure if I don't, get $1 billion and be like, this person, or if I'm in the same social status as this person, then I'm a complete failure, like this. It's a very burdensome kind of mentality. You're carrying around this very heavy and unnecessary burden, because ultimately these things really have nothing to do with us, with the soul, who's an eternal servant of Krishna. They don't have anything to do with us. So to carry them around, these conceptions that everything in this world is very significant, and that if I don't get ahead in this world, then I'm a failure eternally. It's a burdensome kind of mentality. So Prahlad Maharaj, he wasn't concerned with any of this because he had real, serious humility, in the sense that he understood himself to be an eternal servant of Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he set the standard of what real humility is, as we all know. Trinadapi sunichena tororapi sahishnuna manina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. To think oneself lower than a blade of grass, to be more tolerant than a tree, thinking all respect belongs to others and none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. So it's Dravida Prabhu's poem. So this is a very important verse, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his commentary on this verse, he says that he brings out the same point that Srila Prabhupada brings out in this purport, that actually this humility begins with humility to the spiritual master. Becoming humble, a humble servant of the spiritual master. It's stated in, I forget which Upanishad it's in, but it's a very famous quote from the Upanishads. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Acharyavan Purusho Veda is a very simple, little sutra. Acharyavan, Van in Sanskrit means like, possessed or like composed of. So one who is and then Purusha means person or man, and then Veda means knowledge. So Acharyavan, one who possesses, a man who possesses a guru, he knows. Very simple kind of aphorism. And I think it's in Madhvacharya's commentary on this, or some commentary on this verse. The comparison is made just like if one is blindfolded and then dropped somewhere it says the country of the Gandharas, which I guess is a race, or was a race in Vedic times. If one is dropped there in the country of the Gandharas, then you can't find your own way out. It's not possible to just, kind of like figure out where you are. You have to ask somebody, where I am, how do I get out, where does this road lead, etc. So in the same way, we're dropped in this material world, and we don't know where to go. We don't know who we really are. We don't even know that there's another reality until we meet the spiritual master, until we meet a Vaishnava, a pure Vaishnava, who can show us the way out. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse in this purport, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, you won't get the mercy of Krishna, and without the mercy of Krishna, you won't attain anything. You won't get out of the material world. Therefore, it says, this is in the Mundaka Upanishad, Srila Prabhupada quotes very often, Tad vijnanartam sagurum evabhigachet samit panishrotriyam brahmanishtam. Savijnanartam or tat vijnanartam, one who desires vijnana, means real, one who desires real knowledge, sagurum evabhigachet. Then he should surrender to a guru. And then it says who this guru is. This guru is somebody who is coming in the line of disciplic succession, and by dint of his hearing, Shrotriyam has become Brahmanishta. Brahmanishta means he's situated in Brahman. And this is echoed in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it says, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasa Shreya Uttamam. What's the third line? Shabde Precha Nishnatam Brahmanyupashamashrayam. It says, therefore one should surrender to a guru and inquire from him submissively. And it says, such a guru, Shabde Parecha Nishnatam, Brahmanyupashamashram, is fully situated or sheltered in Brahman. So it's the same, practically the same verse. So, Brahmanishta means that he's situated in Krishna consciousness. Krishna is the supreme Brahman. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Krishna is the supreme Brahman. All other conceptions of Brahman rest in him. So one who's desirous of getting out should inquire from somebody who is Brahmanishta. And Prahlad Maharaj, we see, he's thoroughly Brahmanishta. He sees everything in relation to Krishna, and he has full realization of who Krishna is, and like this, especially this Goptridve Varanam Tada, he's fully sheltered and understanding that Krishna is my protector, which is a symptom of full Sharanagati, or surrender to Krishna. So one other aspect that's brought out is that the guru, he repeats, or he's realized only what he's heard. It's not that guru means that somebody is just presenting their own ideas. I was just hearing a lecture from Prabhupada this morning where he was he was emphasizing how Bhagavad Gita should be presented as it is. It was a lecture in Ahmedabad, and he was saying that it should be presented as it is in disciplic succession, as Krishna is presenting it, and Krishna doesn't make it. Krishna doesn't say, okay, now you interpret it. I've left it ambiguous, now you interpret it, you figure it out. He says that Krishna made it very clear. And Prabhupada gave the example that Dharma kshetri kuru kshetre samavetayu yutsava mamakav pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. He says Kurukshetra is there, it's a real thing. Dharma kshetra, it's very clear what that means. Pandava, it's very clear what that means. It's talking about the Pandavas. But so he said there's no need to say that Dharma kshetra means this, Kurukshetra means this, Pandava means this. He said it's all very clear, it's all there. So a bona fide spiritual master or guru, he hears, like Prahlad Maharaj did, he's fully accepted in his heart, accepted that knowledge in his heart, and he repeats it. Achanoti shastrartam acharya stapyantipi svayam acharite yasmad acharya stena kirtitaha. An acharya means one who's achanoti shastrartam, who places great emphasis on shastra, who's heard Shastra, who understands Shastra, Acharya Stapyantipi, who establishes the conclusions of Shastra, and then Svayam Acharite, he practices himself the conclusions of Shastra. And then it says, Acharya Stena Kirtita. Such a person can be called an Acharya. So, because such a person is fully realizes Krishna, is very close to Krishna, he's very dear to Krishna. Like we hear, Kintu Praporyav Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Such a guru who is fully realized is very dear to Krishna. He's a very intimate servant of Krishna. And therefore for us, it says, Sakshad Dhuritvena Samasta Shastra Ruktas Tatha Bhavyata Eva Sadbi. That he's Sakshad Hari means Sakshad Hari actually means he's Hari himself. But Srila Prabhupada emphasizes in this purport that he's not actually one with Krishna. Sometimes he is. Like for Arjuna's guru is actually Sakshat Hari. But but he's Sakshat Hari in the sense that for us he's practically Sakshat Hari because we have no access to Krishna beyond him. We have no access to Krishna other than through him, through the Guru. So for us he's as good as Krishna because he's our only way to Krishna. He's our only way of accessing Krishna. So therefore, Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Prabhupada brings out in one, I think it is purport to Nitai Pada Kamala. I think that's where I read it. But he brings out that therefore one should become the dog of such a Vaishnava. Vaishnava Thakur Tomar Kukur, Bolya Jana Hamore. He says, Vaishnava Thakur, he says, I'm your dog. Which is a very kind of fitting analogy because a dog has no separate existence from its master. The dog, he exists wholly and solely to bring pleasure to the master, and is also in a much lower position than his master. So, and then due to pleasing the owner or the master, he's maintained, he's given love, all these different things. So Vaishnava Thakur Tomar Kukur. So one should feel this way, that I have no separate existence from my guru, and Srila Prabhupada also brings out from the Vaishnavas as well, not just that it's me and my guru and Krishna, but all the Vaishnavas. One should feel this way with all the Vaishnavas, and of course depending on the qualification of those particular Vaishnavas, we serve them in different ways. Just like it says, Krishneti yasya kiritam manasadriyeta dikshasi chet pranati bishcha bhajantamisham shushrushraya bhajana vignamananyamanya nindadi shunya hridamipsita sangalabdya. That for one who has Krishneti yasya kiri, for one who has uttered the name of Krishna, or for one who is chanting the name of Krishna even regularly, one should, at the very least, one should mentally honor him. One should offer him respect mentally. And then for one who is Dikshasti Chet Pranati Bishcha Bhajantamisham, for one who has received Diksha and is therefore worshipping the deity and chanting his mantra, then Dikshati Pranati Bishcha, then one should offer him, pranam, like external respect. And then Shushrushraya Bhajana Vignamananyamanya Nindadi Shunya Hridamipsita Sangalabdya. And then for one who is a pure devotee, who has no propensity to criticize others, he's completely free from this, he's nindadi shunya, he's completely free from the propensity to criticize, then one should very submissively hear from him and serve him. So there's different ways to serve different Vaishnavas, but the idea is that we get the qualities of those we serve. Like I think Dharmaseta Prabhu was mentioning in his class the other day that the three people you associate with most, you get their qualities. So in the same way, those you serve, we get their qualities. So we should make a great effort to serve the Vaishnavas so that we can get their Vaishnava qualities. Such as, one quality of the Vaishnavas is that they go back home back to Godhead. So of course we want that. We want to go back home back to Godhead. So by serving the Vaishnavas, then we attain realization, we attain taste for the holy name. We serve Vaishnavas who have taste for the holy name, and we get taste for the holy name. We serve Vaishnavas who are, like I was saying, Brahmanishta, then we also become Brahmanishta. So I'll stop there if there's any questions or comments. Yes, Prabhu.
One note on that Sakshad Haritvena verse. The Tvena at the end is important. I mean, that's the quality, according to where he had, with the quality of Hari, and the spiritual master to be honored as much as the Lord because he's the most confidential servitor. So when that first, in the early days, it came out, it wasn't really clear to them that it's honoring as much as God, and is God, the spiritual master is God, and everyone freaked out. Like, what have I just heard? I can't believe this. So they said, well, we should go ask Prabhupada to explain it, and he explained it in that way. But that's the idea, is that he's in the position of God. He's a representative of God, and he's authorized and able to receive the worship properly, and most importantly, hearing and following.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anything more? Veer Chandra Prabhu.
Thank you for the class. I have a question. What we should exactly do to attain this humility? And you mentioned that we should surrender to Guru, but in our situation, mostly Guru far distant from us. What?
Well, there's a couple things I could say to that. One thing is that although the Guru might be far away, the Guru is actually never really that far away because the Guru's instructions are always there. So by following the Guru's, and so real humility, and I think this is even in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's purport to this Trinadapi Sunichena, that real humility means very closely following the instructions of the spiritual master and taking them as one's life and soul. So if one perfectly or at least very sincerely tries to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, then the spiritual master is always very close by. Like Srila Prabhupada mentioned, he said, I was never, he came to America and he was alone, he could say externally, but he said, I was never alone because I always had the order of my spiritual master and therefore I always felt I was with him. So the Guru is always there accompanying us wherever we are, and Krishna also is the Chaitya Guru is with us too. So, but of course on a practical level, then if the Guru is far away, then one can follow his instructions, but then also in the absence of Guru, we can see all Vaishnavas as our Guru, in one sense. And we can try to serve Vaishnavas, like I was mentioning, to become the dog of a Vaishnava, to think oneself very low in relation to all the Vaishnavas, and to try to see their good qualities and to try to see all of our bad qualities. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if you analyze your own, he said there's no use, something along the lines of there's no use in criticizing others for their bad qualities, because if you look in your own heart, you'll find sufficient subject matter for meditation, something like that. So, all of us, none of us are perfect. We're all trying to come to the, to the platform of pure devotional service. So, but we should try to see others' good qualities, and we should try to see our own bad qualities, and see how other people have gotten over those bad qualities, or how other people have overcome those bad qualities, so that we ourselves can also overcome them. And when we see like that, then naturally we feel very humble. We see that there's many people who are not struggling with the same things that I'm struggling with, who have overcome the things that I'm struggling to overcome. So in this way, we can become, just naturally very humble. Because, again, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, there's within our own heart, in relation to, or in terms of, faults, there's sufficient subject matter for meditation. So we can just try to meditate on all of our faults. One thing also, I heard this in my Guru Maharaj was giving a lecture one time, and somebody said, how do I become humble? And then he asked me, he said, well, what are you puffed up about? And then they said something, and he said, why are you puffed up about that? There's so many people who are better than that, better at that than you. And then he said, so if you just analyze, if you just go down the list, if you say, okay, I'm feeling puffed up, okay, what am I puffed up about? Okay, I'm puffed up about this, I'm puffed up about that. Okay, well, I'm not really that good at that anyway. Or I'm not really that good at that, or I'm not really glorious in this regard, or something like that, So if we just analyze, if we're just introspective, we can see that for every good quality, usually we have a much worse quality. So that's something. Jordan.
In reference to the question, I wonder the one part of the verse where you see yourself lower than a blade of grass, I wonder if that has anything to do with humility.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Well, lower than a blade of grass, it comes up that, because a blade of grass, how Srila Prabhupada translated, he says lower than a straw in the street. So a straw in the street, he's just, yeah. The straw in the street, you get stepped on, or some Vaishnava comes along and wants to be humble, he puts you in his mouth. yeah, straw on the street, it gets stepped on, it gets blown around. So it's really like, if somebody sees a straw on the street, they don't really think anything of it. There's just a straw on the street. They won't even notice it. So to be more humble than a straw on the street is to, the example is given that a straw on the street can't say anything about it. A straw on the street can't do anything about it, can't increase their position or try to become some big puff. It's a straw on the street, it's not like alive. So, but a human being has the opportunity to advertise himself, to try to make himself some big guy. So to be more humble than a straw on the street is to keep oneself in that very low position, despite having the ability to advertise oneself or to become, something, or advertise oneself as something more than they are. And then, so humility is like that.
Comment on this verse, very important verse. It's an editing thing, but it's important. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita that was published in 1975, the wording was in the Bengali, and the way it was, Trinadapi Suni Chena Todor Iva Sahishnuna. Now, later on when the Punjabi came out, I noticed that the second line was Todor Api Sahishnuna. And I consulted with our Sanskritist at that time. I think it was Kishore Prabhu. You may know him, Godbrother. And Mayapur, a very learned student of Gopi Puranadana. And we did the research and we found that, it's supposed to be uppy. And the difference is very important because Eva means like, and uppy means more than. Trinad api suni chena, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. And a tree is like as tolerant as you can get practically, but it sets a very, very high standard. And it hasn't been universal in ISKCON. Many devotees memorize that Eva, so it's not that big a difference. But it's interesting the way Lord Chaitanya, more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. It's quite a standard to have to try to reach that. But that's the mood which when you chant in that helpless position. And I've often thought of this verse that this is unique to a qualification you can attain in Kali Yuga, because it's you're so beat down and so disqualified in this age. That is a great qualification for chanting with desperation and helplessness, to really feel that way and place yourself in a position that way. So it's the last shall be first shall be last. That's in Bible, and that's why it says in 11th canto the demigods are lining up to take birth in this Kali Yuga. This Kali Yuga, where Lord Chaitanya set that standard, because by Sankirtan alone you attain everything. Because in that mood, you can chant. So it's such an essential verse.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
May I?
You may.
Yes, Amogha Prabhu, thank you very much. You're most kind on about pranams. Prabhu, the quote from the translation to the text you chose for today goes as follows.
I didn't choose it, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Unfortunately, I didn't get to choose what verse I spoke on, but yeah. But anyway, continue, Prabhu, sorry.
Yes, it is by sequence, no?
It's by sequence, exactly. It was chosen, the verse that was chosen for me.
Chosen for you, of
Yes.
course. So the quote is as follows, quote, "The place where the Brahmanas taught the boys," unquote. So based on this quote, I have the following to say in order for me to present my question to you. I think you know better than me that strict Brahmanas, they do not charge their students for teaching them. So based on this, my question is, why is it that the book distributors charge for the books?
Well, strict Brahmanas you could say they don't charge anything, but they are maintained by their teaching. So in the Varnashram system, Brahmanas, they teach, but they're maintained by the rest of society. They're maintained by the Kshatriyas so that they can do that. They're given, food and money and things like that. But then, of course, Brahmanas, they live in a very meek way. It describes, actually, in some places in Shastra, that a Brahmana, whatever he receives in charity in the morning, he gives in charity by the evening. So the morning and evening, he or in the morning and in the evening, he, by the end of the day, he's in the same place that he was in the morning without any charity. So, in absence of that system, we need money to print books. What I like to say about this is that we're not asking people to pay for the knowledge. We're asking people to pay for the paper. If you want the knowledge, then there's so many free ways to get the one thing is online, but also the temple is here. Come to the temple, hear classes and things like that. But if you want to buy paper, then you have to pay money for paper. Because why? Because we have to pay money for paper. We have to pay money for paper. We have to pay money for shipping. We have to pay money for all these different things. That's how the world is. It's like one person was very heavily criticizing recently. He was coming to the Krishna lounge, and then he called the temple, and he was saying all kinds of stuff like, this is a cult. You guys are making people pay for knowledge. This is not right. I'm gonna have to come and expose you guys, and just like really crazy. It's like really kind of neurotic person, and but we're not asking anybody to pay for knowledge. We're asking people to pay for paper. So if you can't pay for paper, then that's fine. You can come and you can listen to the classes. You can. Well, I got to confess, Jordan is confirmed. Yeah, unless you come to Dravida Prabhu's classes are all $5 at the door. But yeah, the knowledge is free. The mantra is free. You can chant, for free. We're not charging for mantras. We're not charging for if you want to talk with us, and if you want to ask questions about the philosophy, we'll happily answer your questions. But if you want to buy paper, you have to pay money.
Yes, of course, Prabhu. Thank you very much. A most intelligent answer to my question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In this regard, Vijay Prabhu, he stayed with me. And apparently they're trying to kick us out of the zoo now. So he went back to try to get back in the zoo. He had Amarendra, who's a longtime lawyer, just right up. He sent him the okay. But they still wouldn't let him in. And so he said, okay, I'll have another case. He's already sued them like 4 or 5 times and won every time. Because... And this is a very important point, and that's you always hear, and you'll ask, they ask for a donation, right? It doesn't say, well, this book is $5, this one is $10. And you say, it's by donation, and some people give this. Very important, because it's a First Amendment thing. Mm. You're spreading religion, you're advocating it's protected in the First Amendment. But if you make it into a business, then they can say, no, you can't do business here. So how you present, the request, it's by donation, and people, give $10, you hear, like that.
Actually, in this regard, there was a court case, famous court case. I learned this because I'm traveling Sankirtan. We were getting kicked out of one school, and we were on the phone with Mrigendra Prabhu, and he told us about this case, Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. So the Mormons were they were selling Bibles, like selling. That's the word that we use. They were selling Bibles on college campuses. And then they were told that they couldn't. And then so they took the state of Pennsylvania to court, and the ruling was that it's either in public areas or I think it might just be in all public areas. In public areas, you can sell, not just donation, you can actually sell for money religious literature, because otherwise then only rich people could present their ideas. So you can actually sell. You can actually, and that's what we were saying after that. We were telling people they were coming up, and we were saying, yeah, we're because the security guard was right there. We were saying, yeah, we're selling these books. We're selling books on but because they couldn't say anything because we had the court case. But yeah. So actually, maybe I don't know. Maybe that would be relevant in this case. But yeah, you can actually sell religious literature, or I think it's religious or political literature, because then otherwise only rich people could then present their ideas, because only they would have the money to present them. Yes.
I want to add that when we ask a donation, then people like this are engaged in service to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, that too, yeah. Yeah. I think this will be the last thing.
Also, like as far as the question goes, I feel like it's not free on the streets. As far as knowledge goes, like maybe like a brute would come around and think he can just like snatch knowledge up, but like other people, they got to earn it. You know what I mean? Like they invest their time into it, and they become maybe compassionate enough for somebody to even be willing to deal with them. You know, like there's some people who are just so brutal and superstitious, and concluded that, you know, it's like they'll be like, well, there's nothing I can do. You can't pay me enough to fix that guy. You know, I can't spend my time on that guy.
Yeah, one thing also, and this will be the last thing, is nobody criticizes like schools and other institutions, because that's, for instance, schools, like, it's presented that you need to go to school. You need to go to school in order to live. If you don't go to school, then you won't be able to live. You'll have to, you know, whatever, be a derelict, you know, on the street, whatever it is, you know, people say. But then what do? They charge crazy tuition fees for school, but nobody criticizes that. They say, oh, well, anyway, they have to maintain the institution. They have to pay all the teachers. Okay, well, what about us? You know, nobody. But then we get criticized saying that it's like a paywall. You know, you're not allowed to get our knowledge unless, well, where are you going to find any institution where to get knowledge where you can just freely go? Like any college, you can just go and, okay, it's free. You know, it's free college. So in the same way, you know, there's practical thing. The knowledge itself is free. If you want to just speak, like you can speak to a physicist and you can ask a physicist questions about physics. But if you want to go and like, you know, enroll in a course or something that requires resources, then yeah, you have to pay, you know, because you have to. It's a give and take. You know, they're using resources on you, and so therefore you have to reimburse them for those resources. It's a very kind of basic idea. So. Exactly. Yeah. So okay, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.